John Fogerty was more than just the lead singer of Creedence Clearwater Revival. He was the band's driving force, writing the songs that became timeless. Proud Mary, Fortunate Son, Bad Moon Rising. But behind the hits, a storm was brewing. Fogerty often clashed with band members and record executives over control, credit, and money. These battles didn't fade with time. In fact, they became lawsuits that lasted for decades. Today, at 80 years old, John looks back and says, "It's ironic that old people are still suing each other." The story of CCR is not just about music, it's about betrayal, loyalty, and the price of fame. In the late 1960s, Creedence Clearwater Revival came out of California and changed rock music forever. Unlike psychedelic bands of the time, CCR sounded raw and rootsy, with a southern swamp rock style. Fogerty's voice carried power, grit, and truth, making their songs anthems of protest and freedom. But behind the fame, tensions grew. John took charge of everything: songwriting, production, and business decisions. His bandmates began to resent his control. What started as brotherhood soon turned into bitterness, setting the stage for the battles ahead. By 1972, the magic was gone. Internal fights destroyed the group. Tom Fogerty, John's brother, walked away first, frustrated with John's leadership. The rest of the band tried to keep going, but it didn't last. After just a few years of global fame, Creedence Clearwater Revival was over. For fans, it was shocking. How could such a powerful band burn out so quickly? But for John, it was only the beginning of his real struggles, fighting not just ex-bandmates, but also the record company that owned his songs. One of John's biggest regrets was signing away the rights to his music. Like many young artists, CCR trusted the record label, but the deal gave Fantasy Records ownership of their songs. That meant Fogerty, the man who wrote them, didn't control them. Every time Proud Mary or Fortunate Son was played, others made money, but not him. This betrayal haunted John. Worse, his bandmates sided with the company, blaming him for their failures. For Fogerty, it wasn't just business. It felt like personal betrayal from the very people he once called family. The bitterness spilled into courtrooms. John faced lawsuits from his old label and even from his former bandmates. One infamous case accused him of plagiarizing himself, claiming his solo song, "The Old Man Down the Road," sounded too much like a CCR song he had written years before. Imagine being sued for copying your own music. Fogerty fought back and won, but the scars were deep. He later admitted the legal battles nearly destroyed his love for music. The dream had turned into a nightmare. Perhaps the most painful part of it all was John's broken relationship with his brother Tom. They never reconciled before Tom's death in 1990. John said Tom had sided with the record company and turned against him, leaving him with deep wounds that never fully healed. When asked why he didn't attend CCR reunions or play with the surviving members, John always gave the same answer: too much has happened, too much pain. What should have been a brotherhood of music ended in silence and distance. Now, decades later, the lawsuits haven't stopped. Even as John and the surviving members reach their 70s and 80s, battles over money and rights continue. Fogerty shakes his head at the irony. "It's ridiculous that people this old are still suing each other," he said. For fans, it's heartbreaking. The men who created songs of freedom and unity can't find peace among themselves. What was once a band of brothers is now a symbol of how fame can divide. Despite it all, John found redemption through persistence. After decades, he finally regained control of his music catalog in 2023. For the first time since the 1960s, he owned the rights to the songs he wrote. It was a victory that took half a lifetime to achieve. Fans celebrated, and John himself called it a dream come true. Still, the joy was bittersweet. He had won back his music, but he could never win back the years of fighting and broken relationships. Even with all the bitterness, Creedence Clearwater Revival remains one of the most beloved bands in rock history. Their music defined an era, speaking to soldiers in Vietnam, protesters in America, and generations of listeners worldwide. Songs like Who'll Stop the Rain still feel timeless. But behind the legacy lies the cautionary tale. Fame can fade, money can vanish, but grudges can last forever. For John, the music was a gift, but the battles around it became a curse. John Fogerty is still performing, still singing the songs that made him famous, but when he talks about his past, he doesn't hide the pain. "It's ironic that at 80 years old, people are still suing each other," he said, shaking his head. In the end, his story is about more than lawsuits. It's about resilience, survival, and the complicated cost of chasing a dream. The music of CCR will always live on, but the human story behind it will forever remind us that even legends can be broken by the weight of their own success.